All right, I don't really have a plan for what I'm gonna say, but here's just some of my thoughts about the ending of Game of Thrones, which is that it's shite. Okay, it's probably it just wasn't good. It just straight up it wasn't good. Okay, let's talk about a few things. I don't know what I'm gonna do here for organization wise, but there's a few storylines that really upset me. All right, so the first one is Daenerys, and the second one is Jon Snow. The third one is Bran. um, there were some other like, all right, you know, if this was just a random fantasy series, I think we would say that whatever. We could just like let go some of the shitty writing or like the plot holes or whatever. Like for instance, here's a good example. In this scene here, wait, not this scene. Let's see if I can find it. In this scene here, where Tyrion is going down to like the dragon pit or the I don't know what it's called. It's like the basement where all the dragons live. Like he has no fucking reason to go there. There's no reason he should be there. He just like randomly goes there and finds his brother and sister and then like, you know, why? He had no business to go there. For all he knew, I guess he was checking to see if like did Jaime and Cersei actually smuggle themselves away from the city. But like there's no way he would have actually found like he just wouldn't have found anything. So Tyrion's story I guess had some stupid things. I guess throwing the pin I thought was cool. Daenerys, they did her dirty. No, to like, okay, look, it's long been a theory of Game of Thrones that like Daenerys would go crazy, that she would uh, become the Mad Queen like her father, Aegon, and I can't remember Aerys Targaryen, whoever the Mad King is. I think it's Aerys Targaryen, Aerys II Targaryen. And like it's great, you know. She should. I think actually Daenerys going Mad Queen is a great storyline. Like it's a great idea. You know, we have this person who like for a long time was, you know, at first she was like kind of this like innocent person, just like being traded off by her brother, and then, you know, she ends up like gonna have Khal Drogo's child, and then at the end of that season, you know, Khal Drogo dies and she loses her baby, but then she realizes like she's the mother of dragons, and then her story carries on from there. And like, if they wanted to execute well the, like, do a good job of the Mad Queen storyline, they probably should have shown more scenes of her, like, her character showing more flaws. Like, in seasons 1, 2, and 3, you know, she could have just been, or like 2, 3, and 4, rather, she could have just been like some kind of a savior. And then 5, 2, 3, 4, then 5, 6, and 7, she could be like, you know, getting worse and worse. And like they should have shown like more. They did show a few scenes where like the people were mixed about her actions. Like there's that one scene where during the Sons of the Harpy arc where like she gets hissed by the people or whatever. There's like Randall Tarley gets burned, but all of season 8 she just kind of like snapped, and a lot of people felt that like when the bells rang she just was a psychotic killer at that time. They didn't really do like a great job like building it up. They also like the plot devices we were supposed to imagine that were the reasons why she was upset were kind of trash. Like when Rhaegal died was unbelievable. Like when I say it's unbelievable, I mean like literally it was written so badly that like okay, let's just put it to you this way. Like if I was a sailor in a wooden sail ship, like why would I be able to, there's just no way those like ballistas or like bow and arrow crossbow things should have been able to kill Rhaegal. Like especially because in the very next episode, like Daenerys just like fucked him up. So why couldn't she just fuck him up in the previous episode? And then like in the finale, when they finally got to like the scene where Daenerys is killed by Jon Snow, like she didn't even say anything. She was just like, "We need to break the wheel. We can't." It just felt like so. Oh, they did Daenerys so dirty. Like there should have been like a battle of some kind, like a small battle between like Jon Snow's people and Daenerys's people, and like they could have killed Grey Worm, who was like useless the whole series. And I don't know, there should have just been like a bigger build up. She should have died close to the end of the episode, not in the fucking middle. They could have even taken out all of episode 8.4 just to have more plot points for building this up. Like, okay, 8.4 was the dumbest, worst episode of a TV show that I've watched actually the whole thing of. So, if people are going to say, like, oh, they had to rush it, like, no, they didn't. They straight up didn't. If 8.4 wasn't even in the series, like, nothing different would have changed. Like, Missandei died, and then Daenerys went Mad Queen because of that. They could have killed her at any time. They could. Alright. Jon Snow? What the fuck is this guy doing? Jon Snow went from being like this like righteous, good person to like blindly following his girlfriend. Okay, like the whole arc where he falls in love with his aunt is just so out of character for him. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess like when he was in love with Ygritte, he also like kind of broke the vows of the Night's Watch, and I think that like if I was like an HBO intern trying to write this episode, I'm certain it was written like solely by interns and not by actual professional writers. But like if I was an HBO intern like trying to write the show, then I'd probably be like, yeah, well, he broke his like rules then, and I guess he'll break his rules now. But like, I don't know. All he did was like swear allegiance to Daenerys without really. He should have protested a lot more, and I just felt like overall he didn't really do very much. Like I expected his role in 8-3 to be way bigger. He should have killed the Night King. Him like the finale, like I'm trying to gather my thoughts. In 8-3, Jon Snow should have killed the Night King or Jaime. One of those two. Like I would have strongly preferred Jaime or Jon Snow to kill the Night King for the following reasons. A, because the whole fucking series 1 through 7 was about Jon Snow's rivalry with the Night King. So it would have been a great ending to that storyline if Jon killed the Night King and not Arya, who like there was no continuity between Arya and Jon. The other thing that could have been, there was no continuity between Arya like being in that like stealth area and then coming up to kill the Night King. There was no like, it was just like when you have a twist to a show that comes out of nowhere, it should be a surprise because the viewers are not expecting it. It shouldn't be a surprise because it's just random, right? Like in Red Wedding, okay? There was nothing, although the events of Red Wedding were shocking and we weren't expecting like Catelyn or Robb to die in those moments, like there was no apparent danger because the Freys were supposed allies of the Starks, and the actual build-up required, that there was nothing unbelievable about the idea of, you know, getting these guys in the rafter, like the band to have crossbows next to them. There was nothing unbelievable about that. The build-up was not like, I don't know, it just kept us involved in the show. But when Arya comes to kill the Night King, it's like, she was, last we saw her, she was in like a library getting like sneaking around there, and like the Hound had, or like maybe Melisandre was there, I can't really remember, but the point is, you know, there was no reason for that. The other, or, you know, so Jon Snow should have killed the Night King, or if Jaime Lannister killed the Night King, it would have been great for his storyline too, because the first we saw, like in the episode 1 of series 1, Jaime Lannister pushes Bran out of the tower, and then we could have seen like his arc come full circle from going to like this piece of shit Prince Charming to like actually a good person who like could have like spent the last part of his story like protecting the person he originally tried to kill. And there were so many good options. There were so many better options for Theon as well. Like I actually think they did a decent like a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 on Theon's death. But if Jaime had done the killing, not only would that have been good for, or if Jaime killed the Night King, not only would that have been good for his storyline, but also like it would have been good for it would have been good because he's known as the Kingslayer as well, and then that whole nickname could have taken on some new meaning when he went to save Bran. But I guess that's just not the ending we're gonna see. And then, Bran becoming king. All right. Well, I don't think. Like, why the fuck is Bran the king? Like, the more I think about it, the dumber it becomes in my mind. Like, first off, a couple things were incredibly stupid about that whole scene. The first one is that, like, Edmure. Some shows forget about certain storylines, and, if a show is big enough, the storyline becomes unimportant. And I think that we all kind of forgot that Edmure existed as well. Like, I actually had to think about, like, who's this guy? And, like, Robin Aaron, I didn't even know he was in there until I read on Free Folk later. And it's okay for some storylines to be forgotten. And I don't think many people would have been that upset. But Edmure even talking was kind of just a waste of our time. The other stupid thing about that whole scene was that Tyrion picked Bran to be the king, but Tyrion's standing at that time was that he's like a treasonous kind of a criminal. He had no authority. I mean, I guess he did with the North, but there was just a lot of problems. Like, if Jon Snow actually killed Daenerys in an actual world, then wouldn't the army be pissed? Wouldn't there be more resistance? Anyway, so Tyrion did a good job with the speech, but, Bran didn't do anything to deserve to be the king. Bran never showed any leadership whatsoever. Bran just, like, the only people Bran ever led was Hodor, Asha, Jojen Reed, and Mira Reed. And most of those people died. Hodor died, Osha died, Jojen died, the Children of the Forest, they died. Like, pretty much everyone Bran has ever interacted with fucking died. Rickon, he was with Bran. Rickon got shot by Ramsay Bolton. Alright? And then, like, Bran was basically just like, this is all Bran did for, like, the entire Series 7 and 8. So why should he be king? It's not like, I don't know, it didn't even subvert my expectations. It was just like I guess the biggest problem with the whole season 8 is just that, like, the writers mostly mistook random events for subverting our expectations. And, like, subverting our expectations really meant, like, what that really means is don't just put, like, a random element into your story. Put alter our perspective somewhat so that, for instance, like, I don't know exactly how to explain it in general terms, but here's a specific example that I think is good. The first is that, like, in Series 1, here's an example of how our expectations were subverted, right? Because in series one, we think Ned Stark's the main character. There's no doubt about it. Like, he is the main character. The first thing we see him do is sentence the guy to death, right? He's teaching his children about like honor. He's telling them like raise the dire wolves and stuff like that. And he's in most of the scenes. He does all the mystery stuff, you know, figuring out that Joffrey's not really a Baratheon. Um, Sneaking around in Littlefinger's brothel and like finding Catelyn Stark there. You know, all the attention is focused on him. Okay, in series one, like he is the main character. Overall, in the entire story, someone else is more important, and in our case, like Jon Snow and Daenerys are like much more important, even though they feature less in the first series. And like this is the reason why Sept of Baelor was such a good episode, is because we've been told our whole time, like we've as people who consume entertainment, we've been led to believe that like the main character just has some kind of plot armor. They'll die at the end of several seasons, or you know, there are just certain times we can kill an actor, like at the end of a season, at the start of a season. Occasionally, they did that in House of Cards. They did that really well in House of Cards, actually. Season 2, and then the rest of the show went to shit too. But you know, when Ned gets beheaded, we spent the entire last 8 episodes believing he was the main character, and then after that, you know, someone else took the mantle. You know, we followed Daenerys around a lot more. We followed Jon Snow around a lot more, and eventually, like, you know, Robb became kind of the guy. Still, in the overall story arc, Jon Snow was most important, and then when Robb gets killed, you know, Jon Snow does start to take over a little bit more. Like, we start rooting for him a little bit more. That's properly executed expectation subversion. It's not like an extreme example would be like if like when Arya kills the Night King is a perfect example of like what not to do, because we've had all this build up for certain characters. I think Jaime Lannister would have been the best choice, but I don't know. That was kind of a ramble. I know I didn't really say anything. I'm sure no one really gives a shit what I think, but I'm just really disappointed that I'll go on a 20 minutes rant about, you know, how I feel, essentially. Any other things I want to bring up here? The Dothraki should have been dead. Oh, last thing. I have no idea what Jon Snow does at the end. Like, he's banished to the Night's Watch, but then we see him go north of the Wall. Robb and Aaron, the male of the Vale. See you guys next time.